Thanks. So, I'm sure by now you got to know a lot of what the wealth management and family office is all about. And as a wealth manager, I'm going to talk to you about something very, very distinct now, and that's something related to social sector. Let me just take an audience poll so that we can appropriately design the panel questions and we can be more interactive with you. So how many of you are in social impact space already?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I could see about 10 to 12 odd hands here. How many of you are in angel investing space?
2.
Okay, we have similar number of this thing. Okay, how many of you are in active philanthropy as a family?
1.
Okay. And let me ask the most difficult question. How many of you feel that you want to be in philanthropy, but you don't have money? So we have possibly an answer for it. And I will try to get the answer from my fellow panelists as to what this social impact investing is all about. So before I start the panel, this 25, 27 odd minutes that we have with you, we will keep it as interactive, so we'll keep half of the time for you to ask whatever you want to ask around the topic, but we will set the context. So first and foremost, I think there is a still lack of understanding about what the social impact investing is all about. And I think each one of us have tried to define it in various ways that we think appropriate. And there's nothing wrong about it. But before we get into social impact, let's first talk about why social impact and investment together. And before we get into that, let's see what is the cycle of this goddess Lakshmi that we all generally try to work around. So more often than not, there are two sets of individuals: wealth creators and wealth inheritors. The wealth creators, they spend most part of their life creating the wealth, and at some point in time, some event happens, something gets triggered, and they say, now I have done enough, let me start contributing back to the society in whichever manner they feel appropriate. So they start dividing their wealth among the family, friends, society, in whatever ratio they feel it appropriate. And very often than not, they become more charitable as they progress in age, and they become far more social conscious. But they first create the wealth, and then they start doing philanthropic activity in whichever manner they feel appropriate. Very often, if you talk to young wealth creators, they see, I'm still in wealth creation stage. Where's the question of giving back? I've got a lot of avenues to invest money, I don't have money to invest. So I'm in the wealth creation phase. Let me first create it before I give it back to society. So there is a constant struggle in our mind, and that is between, am I need to be in the creation stage or giving back mode? And this creation versus giving back struggle doesn't really get resolved till something happens. And more often than not, something unfortunate happens around us, around our family, or around something, and that's where things start really. So in order to make this struggle easier for us, or to avoid the struggle, possibly the answer could be in the social impact space. Social impact could be a bridge between giving and creating the wealth. Now that's my understanding. I don't know much about it. So let me ask the fellow panelists as to what do they feel, how do they define social impact investing in their own way? And then we will take some more deeper, I would say, exploration in the space. Aditi, can I start with you? You have been working with a lot of social impact organizations. You have been arranging capital for them, trying to make them kickstart by providing seed capital, growth capital, and various facets of growth. What's your way of defining social impact investing?
So great question, and I agree that everybody has their own definition. For us, the way we try to define it is investing into businesses. So these are for-profit enterprises. But these enterprises are dedicated to creating some sort of social impact with low income, bottom of the pyramid, rural populations, or they are dedicated to creating an positive environmental impact. So clean energy, renewable solutions, those kind of things come into the picture as well. So that's how we define it. And as you rightly said, this space is very new. So ticket sizes can be smaller. So, most enterprises in this space are still early stage. The space is about maybe 10 to 12 years old. And that's how we define it. So businesses dedicated to creating a financial return plus an impact either environmentally or socially. And when you evaluate the investments, when you measure the performance, you're measuring both, and both can go hand in hand.
Thanks, Aditi. On my left, I have John, who is running a very successful, I believe, philanthropic organization, but also working towards social impact. Now, that's what I was getting a brief from him before I walked in. So, John, you have worked across the globe. In your view, what's the social impact, and where does it blend with philanthropy?
Thank you. I would just clarify, I don't run the charity Magic Bus. I help out and I volunteer, but I don't actually run it. That's done by people far more qualified and far more knowledgeable about India. And I'm very privileged to be a guest here at this venue, and in fact, to be a visitor to India. It's a tremendous privilege. I have worked in a number of strange and different sectors around the world. At one point, I was involved with the private equity investment game. I'll call it a game because I can do now. The object of the organizations I worked with when I was working in private equity investment was specifically areas that are now called social good or environmental good. It has actually been going on under different names and different sponsorships for a long time. It's only relatively recently that it's been understood that individuals, such as yourselves, highly successful, proven, hardened success stories, will also have an interest in social investing. But as has been said, it's a model that seeks to put its investment, first of all, not in areas that are known to be prejudicial or to cause harm. When I was working in that previous existence, for example, the first filter was nothing to do with gambling, nothing to do with tobacco, nothing to do with alcohol, nothing to do with immoral activities. And people understood it at that level, at that particular time. Since then, the definitions have become rather more sharpened and rather more refined. And there's now a very good offering from the side of people seeking investment, and that might include charities, for example, which today are not necessarily purely philanthropic. Good charities are thinking more in terms of finance models to develop their program, not funding donation models in order to grow their program. The definitions are much more refined, as are the ways in which you as the investors might seek to measure the output. And again, you'll find that the best charities, I naturally include Magic Bus in those, will be able to offer you tools and techniques from our own requirement for measurement so that you can work out whether or not the money you put into an investment in the direction of social good is actually producing a return that you're happy with.
Thanks, John. So I think the definition, as we understand, is fairly wide. But first and foremost, I think it starts, if I understand correctly, is that it starts with social consciousness. And I think most of us in our value system has gone through that kind of social consciousness as to what are the kind of businesses we are supposed to be in or we are not supposed to be in. Now, moving on from there, now we're saying, okay, if you're doing a business or you're making an investment in a business, either as an angel investor, seed capital provider, growth capital provider in the form of venture capitalist or a private equity, what kind of impact that measurement you do on the society whether it's around education, healthcare, livelihood, whatever area that you feel is important to you, environment, and is there impact, positive impact happening in the area that you feel the impact should be brought in, and is your capital acting as a catalyst to make it happen? Now, very often, there is a bit of confusion in the mind that when I talk about social impact investing, it has to be necessarily lower than the market return. And to an extent, it could be true, but not necessarily. I can share my own experience of working as part of the angel investor community for more than 10 years now. And many of these investments are in social impact in nature. And I can only tell you that I don't think I've sacrificed the yield for doing social good. So it's not a compromise between returns and impact. At times, both can be achieved, although you don't start with that as an end objective. I'll give an example, and maybe Aditi can quote more about this. Let's look at a microfinance institution. I remember being part of a seed investor in one of the microfinance company which operates in Banaras. It's a very strange place. Not many microfinance companies operate in the heartland of UP. And I can tell you that that company today has given more returns than many of my other angel investment would have returned. Not because it is microfinance, but because of the impact they have created. They have been able to get 100% recovery, not even 99.99. They only lend to women entrepreneurs, and that too for livelihood, not for consumption. And they have followed it very strictly year after year. 100% recovery. And in a banking or a lending business, if you don't have bad debts or you don't have provisions to make, obviously your business is going to be profitable. I can give you another example of two young students from IIT Kharagpur walked into us and saying, hey guys, we have got a product or a technology by which we can capture the carbon from industrial emission. Because most of the industrial units, you look at it, be it power plants, fertilizer plants, chemical plant, they throw a lot of CO2 in the environment. If you are allowed to capture the C part of the CO2, you can make a big impact. But when these guys walked in, they were looking like a schoolboys, 22, 23 years of age. And the technology was not proven on commercial scale. It was only a lab technology. And coming out, that too from a college. It's not coming out from a research institute to be validated with that level. And few investors took a bet on it, including me. I remember when I was writing the check, I was of the view that I'm writing it without getting this money back. But that was a leap of faith. And today, I can proudly say that that's going to be possibly one of the biggest blockbuster from India. And it's not only recognized in India, today it's recognized by government of UK and Department of Energy in US. And possibly that could be one of the biggest environment technology company from India in this decade. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we don't need to really sacrifice it from a social impact perspective. And maybe Aditi, I would like from you to share the recent examples as to what's happening in social impact space and how you are evaluating the risk and return profile of social impact space.
Thanks, Satya. So, yeah, I completely agree that, see, also no two impact companies are equal. So, the risk and return profiles really vary not only between sectors, but also within sectors, within subsectors. It really depends on the geography where the enterprise is operating. It really depends on actually the motivation of the entrepreneur as well. So, the main difference between how you think about impact investing and how you might think about charity is that actually you're putting your money behind a team. You're putting your money behind an entrepreneur, his vision of how he wants to grow his company. And these entrepreneurs, most of them have created a for-profit structure because they